My name is Jonathan Gillis, and I'm here to talk to you guys today about self care. So, I'm an occupational health and safety coordinator with Aware Nova Scotia. If you're not familiar with us, we are the Safety Association for Nova Scotia Department of Health and Department of Community Services. I couldn't be prouder of some of the work we're doing with our partners in workers' compensation and also Department of Labor around workplace safety and specifically workplace culture. And I also can't overstate how excited and nervous I am to be presenting at this Hearts and Hands conference. I attended last year for the first time, and the conference really hit home to me, and I really enjoyed it. So when the call went out this year to present, I couldn't have jumped on it fast enough. I was really excited to reach out. So I just want to take the time to thank everybody who's responsible for planning this conference, for allowing me to present, and also everybody who's attending virtually. I want to thank you for your time for letting me speak to you. So this is a topic that I'm really passionate about and I really enjoy talking about. Before I get into occupational health and safety, I was a CCA, which is a continuing care assistant, for over 20 years in long-term care. So I really enjoy speaking very openly and honestly about some of the experiences I've had, some of the struggles that we all deal with every day. So I sincerely hope that some of the things that I'm going to be mentioning today and discussing today will really speak to you. But just know going into it that this is very unique to all of us. So some of this is going to speak to you, some of this may not, but it's about looking at what will speak to you and what will work for your life. First thing to remember when we're talking about self care is just that it's very individual, it's different for all of us. The obvious things that come to mind, like vacations, spa days, massages, seeing a counselor, a therapist, these are all great things, but it's not just that, right? We've got to remember that at times self care is a lot deeper than that. We can deal with a lot of ugly things or beautiful things. For some of us, it can take longer or shorter periods of time, depending on what we're dealing with. We could be overcoming trauma or obstacles that's been building inside of us for a long period of time. So I just want you to remember that we're vastly different. We all have different stories. They're not stamped on our shoulder for everybody to see as soon as they look at us. So one thing is true, though, as different as we are all in this struggle together. In fact, I'd argue in healthcare that at times the only people that can really understand some of our struggles and some of our challenges are our peers. But we can be so hard on one another at times. It's hard to be supportive when we're hard on each other like that. Or the other problem with us as helpers is that we give so much of ourselves. I mean, we give of our own well-being to make sure other people are looked after. And then we end up in this negative place. I wish I had all day to talk to you guys about this because I really enjoy the topic. But what I am going to go through is our top 12 self care tips for helpers in the hopes that something I mentioned to you today is going to have some kind of effect on transforming the things that cause you compassion fatigue to come back to some sort of compassion satisfaction. So let's get started. So, number one on the list is always going to be take a stock of what's on your plate. With OH&S, we always do our assessment first. So take a stock of what's on your plate. Be honest with yourself. You cannot fix a problem if you really don't know where the problem areas are. So you have to start with an open and detailed inventory of the demands of your time. Make this detailed list. Then take a look at it. Right? It's not enough to make the list, but take a real look at the list. What stands out to you? What are the things you'd most like to change on the list? And ask yourself, are these life situations that I have to maintain? Or are these things that I've taken on? Number two is to start a self-care idea collection. Set yourself up for success. This is going to give you some guidance on how to make new routines, right? Because at times where we're stressed out or we're having a bad day, it's real easy to fall into those old and negative coping strategies. So if you've got yourself some ideas, some things on the mind, some new ways to deal with stuff, it's going to make it easier for you to build those new habits. Maybe some of the things on this list that are coming up here are going to speak to you. Not all of them will. We're all different, like I say. I really don't enjoy taking a long bath with a candle. I'm not a bath guy. But I do enjoy going out and taking a nice drive on my four-wheeler. For me, that's relaxation. So it looks very different for each of us. You don't have to do these all at once. It's about having some things that you can look at, some guidance you can have. Right? Once you make this nice long list, maybe pick out one or two things that you can make a commitment to do this month. Maybe today. Yeah. Ask a friend to do some of this with you. Maybe they need support too, and they just need somebody to give them that last little push to come along. If you're doing it at work, maybe you could even start a contest. Best idea of the week. Right? Or maybe we could have a board where people are putting up the things that are working for them. And if you're a supervisor, maybe at our staff meetings, we dedicate the first few minutes to self-care, bringing in some ideas, exchanging some successes of what works. Make some positive movements towards this. It's going to have a positive effect on your workplace culture. Number 3 is to try to find time every day for yourself somehow. Right? Try to rebalance your workload where possible. I get what I'm saying, guys. I know some things we don't have control over. But it's about looking for those why moments, I like to say. Look for those moments that you can make a decision and then make it. If you're missing your breaks, for instance, you're working through your lunch hour, try to find some short breaks throughout the day to make up for that time. Not everyone has control over their workload. As I said, I was a CCA for over 20 years. I did not have control over my workload. But at times I could make decisions of the order that I saw my clients in. If there was a particularly challenging client, maybe I didn't go there first thing. Or if I had to, I went to someone who had a really good relationship right after to make me feel good then. Right? It's about looking for those opportunities to exercise that control. Try to do at least one thing for yourself every day. I mean, I have on here, take a 30-minute bath without interruptions. If you've got kids running around, I've got 3 of them running around my house. Sometimes I don't have 30 minutes to take a bath. So I have 10 minutes maybe to take a shower. Don't get stuck on the fact you don't have 30 minutes to take the bath, and appreciate that you have 10 minutes to take the shower. Or watch a movie when the kids go to bed, or just take 10 minutes to sit and sip your coffee looking out the back window. Whatever you need. Number 4 is to learn to delegate some things to people. Get more comfortable with letting some people take over. I had a really hard time with this with my little son. He's older than 4 now, but at the time he was 4, and he was wanting to make his own sandwich, and he was peanut butter all over the place, jam all over the place. That was hard for me to let him do that and clean up the mess afterward, and so on and so forth. Because now he's 6, and he can make his own sandwich without making much of a mess. And that's nice. But I had to learn to let go of control first and let him learn his way. So it's worth the effort if you're going to get results that are helpful. Sometimes you need to learn to let go. You need to ask yourself if there's things you can let go that you can let other people learn and let other people take over. Are you stuck saying nobody ever does this? Maybe it's because you never let go of control. Number 5 is a really big one, and that's to have some sort of transition. You have a transition from home to work, from work to home, or at least know what that looks like. Right? Do you have a long drive through a lot of traffic? Or do you take a little bit of a longer drive through a more scenic route when you have a bad day? Right? Do some of you maybe change your clothes after work? Go have a snack, have a cup of coffee, whatever it is to you, but have something that transitions. One of the biggest things has been to change your clothes. That's what helpers tell us, is that kind of signals the brain that I'm done work and I'm home now. Number 6 is to learn to say no, or learn to say yes more often. I mean, we're all helpers. We're attracted to this field because we're naturally giving people. But are you the person who ends up on every single committee at work? Are you the one on all the boards? Do you volunteer at places? Are you your family crisis support line? Maybe you need to start to say no to some of these things. If you're none of these things, maybe you need to start saying yes. Have you stopped saying yes to your friends when they want you to go out or to new opportunities? I want you to take a moment and reflect on this question. Do you need to learn to say no more, or do you need to learn how to say yes more? Number 7 is to assess your trauma inputs. You can put a filter in place when you're aware of them, but it's about looking at the things that are coming towards us. Do you work with clients who are experiencing trauma or difficult situations? Do you read about them or see photos or exposed to things at work? You can do a trauma input of your regular day. Right? So it's about starting at home. How does your day start? You read the newspaper, listen to the radio, watch the TV. What kind of images are you getting from those things? Difficult stories or images of bad situations? It's pandemic, it's wars, it's things like that, right? And then we get to work. And now we're supporting people through difficult challenges in their life. And how many stories of difficult or negative things do you hear in case conferences or at the break room? Right? And then you return back home. Are you listening to the radio on the way home? Right? The TV at night. Do you have a spouse who's also in the helping field? The first thing you do you get home is unload your trauma on each other. We need to do that. It's important, though, to recognize the amount of trauma that we're unconsciously absorbing during the day. When you're aware of it, you can create a trauma filter to protect yourself somewhat. Now, maybe there's one of those trips to work or home from work, we turn the radio off and not listen to that. Number 8 is to go out for yourself and learn more about compassion fatigue or caregiver burnout. I know for me, I have a hard time just taking something blindly from other people for information. I have to look it up myself. I want to see the study. I want to see the document so that I can read it for myself. It'll speak to me better that way. So if as I go through these tips, nothing's really hitting home, go out for yourself and look it up. A lot of information is out there. There's going to be something that talks to you. Caregiver burnout or compassion fatigue, these are serious and profound changes that happen to us when we're doing our best work. We can go out and learn ways to recognize the symptoms and signs. We can also learn strategies to deal with the problem. Number 9 is to consider joining a peer supervision or peer support group. If there's not one available at your workplace or one in your community that you're aware of, consider starting one. We're not alone in this. I was at a seminar a few weeks ago that it was for first responders, but we talked about frontline healthcare workers as well. And the line that was used was, there's no such thing as an unwounded healthcare worker. We've been through a lot. So let's support each other. It's like I said earlier in the presentation, sometimes we're the only ones that understand each other. So maybe it's just a small group of people, but any way that helps you talk and deal with your situation is great. So number 10 is to attend workshops or professional training. One of the biggest things we hear from people who are burned out or people who talk about having some severe compassion fatigue is that they feel de-skilled and they feel incompetent. Right? So look at some areas that you can hone in on something or you're interested in and go and learn about it. If you're having trouble to get out to stuff, there's a lot of online education. Now, here's where I plug us, www.awareness.ca. We represent all of Nova Scotia Health, and we have a huge amount of online education at no cost whatsoever. So I urge you to go out there and have a look at that. Right? There's a lot of no-cost online education that can help you with a lot of stuff. There's benefits to that. Apart from the depression side, apart from the burnout side, it's going to help you reconnect with your peers. Right? If nothing else, you get to take a day off work if you go to something. It's going to build on your clinical skills and help you feel re-energized in your career. Don't cringe at this one if you're a manager, but number 11 is consider working part-time instead of full-time if that's what's causing you stress. It's not about maybe leaving your current employer, but maybe looking for other opportunities at the facility. If you put yourself out there and people know you're interested, you never know what might come back to you. And then number 12, and anybody who knows me knows this is kind of a funny one for me to bring up because I'm not, super fit, but exercise more. It's about those small improvements. Do you do anything on a regular basis? Maybe you can think of 2 or 3 small ways that you can increase your physical activity in any way. Maybe it's a walking group or something like that, right? But the key to actually increasing this is to make realistic goals, right? Don't set yourself up for a 10-kilometer run next week. Maybe we just talk about walking around the block once or twice. Right? That's something realistic to get your blood flowing. And when you get successful with that, you can go on to bigger and loftier goals. I want to close out the session today by just kind of mentioning, we are dealing with ever-changing workplaces. It's pandemics, it's short staffing, it's increased workload, it's overstressed budget, it's stresses in our work or home lives, many other dynamic problems that we have no control over. We can, however, control our reactions and our behaviors in situations. It's like the quote here says, we can't control the winds coming our way, but we can adjust our sails. So I want to leave you today with my 3 final thoughts. Number 1 is, let's together set a goal to choose at least one of the things that we talked about today and implement it in our lives on a consistent basis. Something small that we can put in place today. I like to talk about our time like money. We have 24 hours a day. We have $24. And you give those $24 away to everybody. Aren't you entitled to $1? One thing for yourself each day. That's not a lot to ask. Number 2 is to let's be a little bit more gentle with each other. We are all living our own struggles. We are all living our own struggles. And number 3 is to make an effort to get to know some of the people that we're not familiar with at work. Do something fun together. The more we have shared experiences, we have fun together, we do things together, we learn to understand each other, the more we can support each other, the more our teams come together, and the more our workplace culture comes together. Rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Well, that's the end of my presentation today. And I just want to again say thank you so much for letting me do this. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll certainly be attending as well. So thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.